You know, folks, the more we go into this whole D4vd and Celeste Rivas case, the more I'm starting to realize that David really felt that he was some big antagonist in some really shitty horror film. You know, the type of horror film where the plot is really shitty and you're able to figure out who did it at the end immediately. Because that's exactly how he did this crime. He thought he was this big antagonist who could do no wrong, who was God's gift to earth. You could hear how he talks with his pretentious ass in all his interviews. Pretentious little shit. You could tell that he thought he was God's gift to earth and he could translate his music skills into his murdering skills, okay? Clearly, that wasn't the case. Because now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the prosecution's office laying out pretty much their roadmap of events. Now we have an official timeline and all the events that they're going to go after David for. And when you hear the stuff that comes off of this report, you're going to realize that this guy is a moron. Like, genuinely a moron. I know he thought he was smart and clever, leaving all these clues behind because, you know, clearly no one's ever going to find her. That's what he thought. And it almost happened that way, too. No one's ever going to find her, so he thought he was leaving all these clever messages behind and things. Now we're finding out that this idiot ordered things to his house to dismember her body, bro, through Postmates. That's how you know he's a... Who uses Postmates? Well, rich people. The guy ordered an inflatable pool. He ordered body bags. He ordered chainsaws. Like, what the fuck is this? This is not a movie. And this is why I said in the beginning, he really feels like he's this character in this movie. He's, in his head, he's living his life as a fucking movie, baby. Hell yeah. That's what he really believes. Who the fuck orders chainsaws to cut somebody up? This shit is crazy. You are not the cartel, David. You're a fucking weirdo. But anyways, a lot of new information is coming out, man. This came out like 11 o'clock at night last night, and I had to get this to you guys as soon as possible. Buckle up, folks, because we're about to see a full picture of what David did to Celeste after the fact of killing her. Let's go ahead and check this thing out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. The date is April 29th, 2026 of this release. Let's check this thing out and get into the nitty gritty, man. First, we have the honorable judge. Let's see what the judge is. Charlene Almedo. We'll have to look into her later. We'll have to look into her and what she's done in the past to get a feel for what type of judge she is. I hope he's got the toughest judge in the fucking county. Hopefully. One could hope that, right? But let's move forward. We have, I'm going to skip the formalities. The people submit the following brief to provide a roadmap for the evidence the people intend to introduce at the preliminary hearing scheduled to begin May 1st, 2026. And best believe, ladies and gentlemen, we will be covering that if we have access to it. I don't think there may not be cameras in the court. Fuck it, bro. I live in LA. Let me get my lazy ass off my fucking butt and I might go to the courthouse. We'll see. I have to figure out if there's cameras allowed. Let's keep it pushing though. We have background facts. The dismembered body of 14-year-old Celeste R. victim was discovered in the front trunk of defendant's Tesla Model X on September 8th, 2025. The vehicle had been towed 3 days prior from 1405 Bluebird Avenue, which was parked approximately 400 feet from the defendant's home at 1368 Doheny Place. I think I said that right. In the Hollywood Hills. Surveillance videos and other evidence confirmed the defendant was the last person to drive the vehicle on July 29th, 2025, before he left Los Angeles on the court tour. So that's the first thing. Now, there are some conflicting reports. There is a private investigator claiming that he saw somebody, light skin and straight hair, moving the Tesla. That was a private investigator, but we're not sure if that was the last person to have moved the Tesla, right? Prosecution is claiming that David himself was the last one to move the vehicle, which kind of promotes the theory that he may have been working alone. I'm not completely sold on that idea, but the fact that this fucking idiot, we're going to get into it, but I already spoiled it. The fact that this idiot was postmating murder weapons makes me feel like he was probably working alone. You know what I'm saying? But now we have a date of when he actually last was seen with that car, and that would be July 29th, 2025. Okay? Let's keep it pushing. And I do think, I don't know, man, leaving that dead body in front of your house, I know the Hollywood Hills is secluded. If you guys have ever been in the Hollywood Hills, it's the windy roads, trees, potholes. It's very secluded and ducked off. But even that, there's going to be nosy neighbors, bro. But let's keep it going. On September 8th, 2025, the manager of the tow yard where the Tesla had been impounded noted a strong smell of decay and the presence of flies coming from the vehicle. He notified Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, Hollywood auto detectives, who determined the Tesla was registered to defendant through departmental resources. At the tow yard, LAPD detectives opened the Tesla's front storage component and observed a black cadaver bag covered in insects. Jesus Christ, bro. Inside the bag, they discovered a severely decomposed head and torso. A plastic garbage bag beneath the black cadaver bag contained the dismembered arms and legs. However, the victim's ring and pinky finger on her left hand had been amputated and were not found in the Tesla. On September 16th, 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Department positively identified the body from dental records as belonging to the victim. And I think dental records kind of are last resort because they're so unique. So they always, but that shows how decomposed she was. But that's even more information that we didn't know. He bought a cadaver bag. He bought a whole body bag. But what I'm assuming happened was he stuffed torso, he stuffed head, and it probably didn't fit. So he was like, fuck, let me just get a trash bag and put the rest of the stuff in there. Bro, this guy is actually a monster, and I think they possibly stopped a serial killer from going on a rampage, because to have the stomach to do this, it's one thing shooting somebody or stabbing somebody. Stabbing somebody is even more hardcore. But it's one thing stabbing somebody, you're in fear for your life, you're protecting yourself, you shot them, you beat them up, and they died. But being able to cut somebody into pieces, not everybody's able to do that. Not everybody is shit. Let's keep it pushing, though. Pursuant to their investigation, LAPD robbery homicide detectives determined the victim and defendant met in January 2022 when she was years old. So we were off by a year. And I still think she was, because gamers are probably some of the best detectives out there. And people, listen, gamers know what's happening in their servers. And if they say she was they met, she was probably, but it really doesn't matter. Pursuant to the investigation, LAPD robbery homicide detectives determined the victim and defendant met in January 2022 when she was years old. They began a S-word relationship in November 2023 when the victim was just 13 years old and the defendant was 18. Detectives learned the victim had been reported missing to Riverside County Sheriff's Department, RCSD, by her family who lived in Lake Eleanor in February and April of 2024. So mind you, she's been reported missing multiple times. And imagine, like, I don't know, bro. Imagine being 18 years old, trying to do something trying to start that with a bro. She hasn't even started like her grown up stuff yet. You know, I'm trying to stay like PG for YouTube and shit. But the girl hasn't even yet, and you're already trying to. That's crazy. I feel like people like this. Every state needs to have a death penalty exception for pedos, in my opinion. But let's keep it pushing, man. RCSD telephonically contacted defendant on February 17th, 2024, after they identified a phone number in the victim's fucking phone records that belonged to him. During the call, defendant claimed he had spoken to the victim last on February 13 or 14, 2024, but stated that he was unaware she was a minor and that she had been reported missing. RCSD advised him that Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, LASD, deputies would be coming to his home. On that day, defendant was living on 804 North Donny Place in West Hollywood. RCSD requested that LASD conduct a welfare check at the defendant's home. LASD deputies went to the defendant's home that night at 8:15 p.m. and informed him the victim was and she was a runaway. Defendant again claimed that he was unaware. Defendant claimed she was unaware that she was a minor, and he had only met the victim once in person in November 2023. However, defendant showed deputies a yearbook photo of the victim he had on his cell phone. Although he claimed to be unaware of where the victim was at the time, she returned home 2 days later. What? I don't even know what to say. What do we say to that? The police knew. Bro, the whole fucking world knew, bro. Everybody, the fucking state of California knew. Like, what? I'm exaggerating, but what the fuck? So you mean to tell me the police find this weirdo creep PDF's number in her phone? They call it up. Oh, hey. Oh, you're a grown man? Let's have a conversation. Let's talk real quick. Hey, by the way, this is a child. Did you know that? No. And then he shows them a yearbook photo of her. How the fuck would you have that yearbook photo? The police knew and they did nothing about it. And this is the problem with police and this type of crime. It seems like they just don't give a fuck. You'll see it across a lot of cases that we've covered in the past on this channel. The person who R-words the kid or like plays with the kid or whatever, does like some weird shit to them, they get 3 years. They get probation. They don't go to jail. I'm genuinely curious what it is about that. We send people to jail. Jumpsuit Pablo went to jail for 10 years for robbing somebody. Motherfuckers be out here diddling and fiddling with kids and they get probation. Shit is crazy, bro. Like, RCSD, Riverside County Sheriff's Department, advised him that the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office Department deputies would be coming to his home. Shit is crazy. Hold on. After they identified a phone number in the victim's phone records that belonged to him, they called him. And the craziest thing about this, we're going to move on. The craziest thing about this is 2 days later, she showed up again. Where do you think Celeste was? She was upstairs in the fucking game room, hiding in the closet, waiting for the police to leave. She was right the fuck there. Where you think she was? Anyways, I'm getting pissed off. Let's keep going. Despite being informed by law enforcement the victim was only 13, defendant continued to pursue her. Let's keep reading. No, I'm not going to keep reading. You already have a career growing for yourself. Let's just ignore the fact that you're just a sick fuck. You just can't escape the urges. You just want that young stuff. Cool, right? That's your sick fucking situation. But you can't even hold yourself back for your own career. Millions of dollars. Nah, I'm gonna keep pursuing her. Oh, the police came to my house and said, stop fucking. Can't say it on YouTube. The police came to my house and said, stop fucking on them young ones. And I'm still gonna do it. This guy is a fucking idiot. Holy shit. Did he graduate high school? I feel like, anyways, after the victim returned home in February 2024, her parents took her cell phone away. Defendant drove to Lake Eleanor and paid a junior high school student in the victim's class $1,000 to give the victim a cell phone defendant purchased so they could stay in contact. Throughout 2024, the victim spent a significant amount of time with the defendant, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet his family. Holy fuck, folks. Holy shit. What is going on? So let's keep this all the way 4,000, 2,300, right? David's family knew everything about Celeste. Celeste's family knew everything about David. How else you think she's going all over the place for all this time? You think they just didn't know? He took her to London. You know what that tells me is that even his label fully knew. Because how are you going to take some random underage female across you're trafficking her to London. Let's not use that word too crazy. You're taking her over to London. How are you going to do that as like a normal togetherness thing? How is that going to make sense? Everybody knew, bro. When they say David had paid the kid $1,000 to give a phone to Celeste, there's actually a picture of that. Because why? Kids are fucking messy. Take a look at this picture, for example. Lake Eleanor giving the motherfucker $1,000 so they could buy a phone for Celeste Rivas. Holy shit, bro. Again, dumbass. Weirdo. All right, let's keep it pushing, folks. Let's keep it pushing because shit gets way worse. So again, his family knew. David's family, Celeste's family. I want to see what they have to say on the stand. Por favor. Text exchange between the victim and defendant contain reference to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and the use of Plan B emergency contraceptives. There are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating, I'm so sorry, folks, their sexual relationship. In November 2024, defendant and the victim broke up. Although they continue to communicate, and text message suggests that they also continue to have sexual relations. This is where the waters start to get there's a little turmoil in paradise. This is when things start to get a little interesting. Because let's keep it real. Boyfriends and girlfriends, 90% of the time, break up in high school. They're fucking kids. They're experimenting with who they like and what personalities vibe with them. Kids in high school get girlfriends and break up. It's not the same. Like, adults do the same thing, but it's like, it's not the same, bro. So of course they broke up, right? You're dating a 10-year-old. Of course they broke up. Let's keep it going. April 23rd, 2025 is the likely date of the victim's death and when all her cellular activity ceased. The night prior, April 22nd, 2025, defendant and the victim engaged in a lengthy argument described in detail in their text messages. Holy shit. And best believe we're going to see those eventually. The messages reveal the victim's jealousy over the defendant's relationship with other women, as the defendant led her to believe they had a future together. She became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with the defendant to end his career and destroy his life. Defendant's first studio album was due to be released on April 25th, 2025. So it's like, she probably wasn't bluffing. He had an emerging multi-million-dollar career already in progress. He also had multiple product endorsements, which were highly profitable. So let's stop right there. This is exactly what I speculated. I told y'all this from I don't know how long. I told y'all this before this whole thing blew up, bro. I told y'all she's a young girl. Let's just keep it real. Women, men and women are jealous, but we see jealousy happen at all age groups. You thought she wasn't finna get jealous when this is he's making multi-millions. Girls are throwing ass at him all the time. You think you're special enough to be his one and only. So for a young person to take all that in, of course they about to crash out. David's too stupid to understand that his success didn't match his disgusting way of living. You know what I'm saying? It's one or the other. Well, no, there's a lot of rich people who do nasty shit. I'll take that back. It's unfortunate, bro. What she should have done is she should have just outed him without even telling him anything. She should have just silently did it. He should have just woke up to it on Twitter one day. That's how she should have done it. Anyways, let's keep going. At approximately 8:40 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, defendant sent an Uber to transport the victim from her Lake Eleanor home to his residence. Idiot. Why is he an idiot for that? You tell me. They communicated before and during her Uber ride, which dropped her off at the defendant's Hollywood home around 10:10 p.m. At approximately 10:30 p.m., defendant sent text messages to the victim inquiring where she was. The people contend this was part of the defendant's premeditated plan to cover up the murder, as she was already dead in this time. So what did he do? What was there's so many things that a lot of people said, oh, they're just going to get him for the CSAM. He's going to get off for everything else. He's going to get off for everything else. It's only going to be CSAM. It's only going to be this. It's only going to be that. No, he's going to jail for murder. You know what I mean? They're going to find that Uber driver. You think they're not going to find that Uber driver? He's probably doing a ride share right now. This is LA. Uber is Ubering out here. You think they're not going to find that Uber driver? That Uber driver is going to sit on the stand, raise his hand and say, yeah, there was a Latina girl that I drove. I remember her not really saying too much. She had like long black hair and I dropped her off in the Hollywood Hills. That's all I know. There's so much things pinning this guy to the fucking ground. I really don't understand why it took so long. But maybe it's just because they were mass surveilling him. They wanted to pin him to the fucking concrete. And it seems like they're doing a good job at it. Holy shit. Knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his music career as she had threatened, very soon after her arrival at his home, defendant stabbed the victim to death multiple times and stood by while she bled out. At no time did he call law enforcement or 911 or take her to the emergency room to attempt to save her life. Well, I mean, that would be kind of counterintuitive, wouldn't it be now? And part of this, in the back of my mind, David lyrics, she probably was just talking, bro. She probably was just talking. I don't think she would have, if she really loved him. I don't know if she hated him at this point, but if she really cared about him, she probably was just talking. He got scared and killed her for it. Shit is crazy. And you know why? I assume she was just talking and she wasn't going to out him. She came to his house, bro. She just wanted attention. And he said, I'll give you some attention. Let me put it this way. I don't really support the death penalty because I feel like some people should suffer in jail. But for David, I mean, we might need to get this guy up out of here. We might need to get him. We might need to put him in the different room. Let's keep going though. Despite knowing she was dead and her family was trying to find her, the evidence will show defendant lied and claimed he didn't know where she was. In fact, defendant drove to Santa Barbara County immediately after the victim died, attempting to dispose of her property and destroy evidence. At approximately 11:30 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, he drove away from his home as he texted and called the victim's phone asking where she was. Again, these were acts calculated and planned to set up his defense within a very short timeline after the victim's vicious murder. Defendant drove his Tesla north on the 101 freeway to San Marcos Pass Road, SR 154, near Lake Cachuma in Santa Barbara County. He returned home early the following morning on April 24th, 2025, before going to a radio interview for the release of his album that week. He sent 2 additional texts to the victim's phone that day, which obviously went unanswered because she was already dead. After April 26, 2025, defendant never attempted to contact her again. So when you see David on those talk shows, and, you know, he has the do-rag and he has the nails and he's so, oh yeah, and I had like this idea in my closet and I just like recorded it. And I really felt like I was inspired at that moment. He's doing all this shit after he killed her. Like hours after he killed her. And I saw one thing in my comment section and it kind of made sense to me, so I want to repeat that. Somebody had said, you know, David acts flamboyant and borderline gay, probably to try and kind of just get the scent off of him for being a PDF. So he goes around being, you know, all flamboyant, little pimple patches and shit. You know, I hang out with my buddies and we just, so that he doesn't be seen for what he really is. I think that's what the shit really was about David. Let's keep it going. Tellingly, defendant subsequently purchased tools to carry out his plot to dismember and dispose of the victim's body. On April 24th, 2025, defendant ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home from Postmates. What a fucking idiot. On May 1st, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered 2 chainsaws to his home. You fucking idiot. You couldn't go out and buy it with cash at least? You couldn't send Neo the Asian to go buy some chainsaws from Home Depot or something? You were that fucking lazy you had to fucking Postmates the chainsaws? Lord have mercy. You're an idiot. On May 5th, 2025, defendant ordered and Amazon subsequently delivered a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool to his home. All the David defenders, raise your hands. David defenders. Oh, he was set up. Everybody raise your hand proudly who are defending him. He was set up, right, guys? Stick to that theory. He made these purchases under a fake name, Victoria Mendez. Wow, David, that's really smart, gang. On May 8th, 2025, defendant returned to the same area in Santa Barbara County, leaving his home around 11:30 p.m. He returned to the area again on May 31st, 2025. This is an isolated site off SR 154, where the victim's identification was subsequently discovered in January 2026. Additionally, on July 7th, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered a burn cage to his home under the same fake name as part of his plan to incinerate evidence. What the fuck? And I will point this out. Burn cage has been ringing around the internet for months now. We all assume that, you know, it was just assumptions and it was real. Burn cages, body bags, chainsaws, the whole shebang. Bro thought he was in the movie and he was the bad guy getting away. Moreover, defendant took horrifying measures to destroy and discard the victim's body. After placing her body into a blue inflatable pool to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor, defendant used a chainsaw and perhaps other tools to cut off her limbs. Small blue plastic fragments were found embedded in the victim's remains, which were collected by Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Department. The fragments were analyzed by the LAPD's Forensic Science Division Trace Analysis Unit. An expert was able to make a physical fit match from the blue fragments to the blue inflatable pool purchased by the defendant in May 2025. David defenders, he was set up though, right? Somebody got the pool that he just ordered for no reason, right? And somebody got those pool fragments and just stuffed it in Celeste's body to frame David, right? I wouldn't be surprised if his attorney said, fuck this, bro, I'm out. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if his attorneys say, deuces, my dog, this is unwinnable. Somebody get this man a public defender. This is unbeatable. In order to distance himself from the victim, he amputated her left ring and pinky fingers because her ring finger contained a tattoo, of his name. I didn't know she had a David tattoo on her finger as well. I know she had the sh on her finger. He placed her limbs into a garbage bag, which he deposited into his front trunk, laying the cadaver bag on top. For several weeks or possibly months, the defendant left the victim's body to decompose inside his Tesla. Now that's the only string of events that I don't understand, because at this point you don't have a trail on you. You don't have the internet on you. There's no headlines about you, nothing. Why not just dispose of it somewhere and hope for the best? Why leave basically a ticking time bomb in your car? You're going to have to deal with that. You thought you was just going to turn into bones before somebody found it? It's not going to happen. Like, it doesn't, that's the only thing that doesn't really make too much sense to me. But I still believe with the whole finger thing and how obsessed he was with the invisible string theory and the fact that he was talking about that possibly hours after he actually murdered Celeste, I still believe that maybe he cut those two fingers off to remove evidence, but he's still following that ideology that he so wholeheartedly believes in. He's still following that anime that he so wholeheartedly loves that he wanted to completely rip their ideas away from them. That's what I think, but let's keep it going. It says he lied to friends, business associates, and others who noticed a strong smell of decay in and around his home and vehicle. Before leaving on his concert tour at the end of July, he parked the Tesla on the street around the corner from his house. So he literally got into that bitch while it was foul in there. He got into that foul-smelling car and moved it. LAPD served a search warrant at the defendant's home at 1368 Doheny Place on September 17, 2025, after the victim was identified by Los Angeles County's medical examiner on September 16, 2025. Inside the garage, detectives discovered evidence consisting with the dismemberment of the victim's body in the inflatable pool, which contained multiple linear cuts. Several biological samples, which tested positive for blood, were collected within the garage area. DNA analysis determined various samples matched the victim's unique genetic profile. On December 9th, 2025, the medical examiner ruled the victim's death a homicide caused by two penetrating injuries to the torso. On January 17th, 2025, the victim's U.S. passport card was found by Caltrans workers off SR 154 in Santa Barbara County. He didn't even burn the passport. He just threw it out there in the street somewhere. He stabbed this girl, let her bleed out. He didn't even have a plan of dismemberment. So I don't know if it was a plan all along or if it just happened that way. The next couple of days, he's ordering stuff. So he has this dead girl in the house for a couple of days. He's ordering stuff, ordering it, all types of tools. And for the next couple of days, he dismembers her. That is sick. That is shit, man. Oh, shit. So now we go into the evidence section of this whole thing. The people will present the following evidence at the preliminary hearing, including, but not limited to, the description of photographs depicting the victim naked, as well as while she was engaged with the defendant in activity when she okay. As this evidence continues, child abuse material, CSAM, the photographs themselves will not be presented. Thank God. While all possible charges that could be proven were not filed, the CSAM is proof of their ongoing sexual relationship while the victim was blank and blank years old. Numerous text messages between defendant and victim evidencing their sexual relationship, pregnancy, abortion, and use of Plan B emergency contraception. So Apparently, he even got her pregnant at one time. They listed that separately. Numerous texts between them will show evidence of pregnancy, abortion, not just conversations of it, actually that happening. And we all know that she can't get pregnant, not with David, so of course that's going to happen. Messages through March 2025 prove defendant continued to manipulate the victim as she messaged, "All we do is have sex. Just hang out. Man, I want more than that for myself." Damn. These messages were obtained from the defendant's iCloud data. Defendant's cellular activity and communications derived from the defendant's iPhone and Tesla, which demonstrate the defendant's activities from April 22nd, 2025 to April 24th, 2025, including a trip to Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night after the victim arrived in the Hollywood Hills home. So she's imagine a 13-year-old talking like, a grown-up, like, oh, you're using me. All we do is have sex. We don't do anything. You go and you screw other girls. I want more than that for myself. For her to have the wherewithal to even have those ideas in her head, it's not right, bro. It's fucked up. Let the child be a child. This guy was poaching and literally being a predator for people who can't even fully properly comprehend like full-on relationships, bro. So there's some more evidence. They have surveillance videos of defendant driving his Tesla on July 29, 2025 for the last time before parking the vehicle and leaving on tour at the end of July. DNA evidence developed from blood stains collected from the defendant's garage, which matched the victim's genetic profile. Proof of defendant's Amazon purchase and deliveries to his residence, including 2 chainsaws, a body bag, inflatable pool. So basically, they're just going over all the evidence in itemized fashion. So I'm not going to do the entire list, but I just want to read you guys the final conclusion on what they're planning to walk away with. This brief is filed to assist the court in understanding the scope and relevance of evidence the prosecution intends to present at the preliminary hearing. Prosecution has issued numerous subpoenas and is prepared to proceed with the preliminary hearing. The defense has had multiple opportunities to request a continuance but has not done so. Furthermore, California Penal Code 1050 requires the defense to provide at least 2 court days notice to request a continuance. In view of the limited scope of evidence to be presented at the preliminary hearing detailed in the brief, there should be no substantial impediment to moving forward with hearing as scheduled. So I think it's May 1st. May 1st, everybody, lock that in on your calendars. It's literally tomorrow. We're going to see what happens. There's no continuance being filed. It doesn't seem like his lawyers are trying to push the brakes on anything. We might see this guy plummet straight to hell with no stoppages. You know, when you see horrible people plummet to hell and they get sent to jail forever, they're usually clawing at the walls and they're slowly sinking and they're just clawing and they're trying. David might be the first person that we see plummet to the fucking bottom with no brakes, because I don't see Johnny Cochran reincarnated himself couldn't save this motherfucker, bro. It is over with. This trial, man, if this trial goes longer than 2 weeks, I would be surprised. Well, they have 40 terabytes of evidence, so maybe just the evidence alone will take a long time. But just know that deliberation, it will be done in about 30 minutes. That's my prediction. Put your bets in right here, right now. It's absolutely disturbing, folks, man. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. I genuinely couldn't even imagine the reality being this grim. Genuinely. Never in my head I thought it was a chainsaw. Never in my head I thought he decapitated her for real. Like, I just didn't think he had the balls to do this shit, man. But anyways, I'm gonna get up out of here, folks. Stay inside, stay safe, man. Keep an eye on your fucking children, folks. I'm gonna get back at you guys very soon. I'm out of here. He notified Los Angeles police. Why can't I do that? Why can't I say that? Chris, let's do it again. Defendant drove to Lake Eleanor and paid defendant drove to